ඒකනේ
ඔකලි ගමනේ. දැන් මේ කම්ප්ලේන්ට්ස්
නෑ ගියේ නෑ මම ගියා තුසිත ගියා කොන්ටාක්ට්
your presentation.
I think you already know our theory.
Yes.
Professor Dr. Rama, you are muted. Dr. Rama, you are muted. Right.
Thank you, Kirti. Good afternoon, Madam Secretary of Ministry of Industries, Mrs. Tilaka Jayasundara, Mr. Kirti Gunawardana, who is now the president of FCCISL, and all the other distinguished members who have gathered today at this meeting. A very good afternoon to everyone. The only thing, Madam, I wish to say is that I did my engineering at the University of Ceylon, as it was then called, way back in 1972. And Mr. Sena Piris and Mr. Nihal Kure were my batchmates. So our friendship goes back to more than 50 years now. I worked as a shop floor engineer at the Paddy Marketing Board for a couple of years before I joined the National Institute of Business Management as a consultant in industrial engineering. And I thought I should mention that, Madam, because you are very, I do know that you are involved with the Asian Productivity Organization in a big way. And during my stint at NIBM, I worked a lot with the APO for many years. So it's a great pleasure to know that you have very strong links with APO. And then subsequently, I moved out. I worked for the United Nations, and for the last 25 years, I've been in Australia working for the Western Sydney University. And in between, I took a break, went back to the United Nations. I was heading I was the director of the Asian and Pacific Center for Transfer of Technology of ESCAP. Then after I completed my stint, came back. What I would like to do is introduce two of my colleagues who are really involved in this project from our Western Sydney University. We have Dr. Prem Samranayaka, Associate Professor at the School of Business. And we have Mrs. Samanthi Veerabahu, who is on the verge of completing a PhD, very bright young lady with a lot of industry experience as well. So the three of us have been working from the Western Sydney University end, and we have been ably supported by Mr. Kirti Gunawardana, Mr. Sena Piris, Mr. Nihal Kure, and of course, Professor Chandana Pereira from SLIIT. So this is a brief introduction of our team. What I would like to do now, Madam, is not to go into what is Industry 4.0 and so on in a big way, but I would still like to make some brief observations on that before I get on to what we have done with our Sri Lankan counterparts, especially thanks to the leadership of Mr. Kirti Gunawardana over the last 2 years. Although I am making this presentation, all the material in this and what I am going to say has been all contributed by Dr. Prem and also Mrs. Samanthi. What I thought I'll do is very quickly, within 15 minutes or so, I would like to talk about what is Industry 4.0, not because those who are gathered there today don't know about it, but I wish to point out some important aspects which led to us undertaking this work. I will then, after a very brief overview of that, I would just like to spend some time talking about the implications for manufacturing firms in emerging economies due to the advent of Industry 4.0. And I would like to make a case as to why Sri Lanka needs to very seriously think about Industry 4.0. I've been working for the last nearly 5 years with a Japanese think tank called IRIA, the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. And through the work with them, I do know that India has commenced work in a very big way in Industry 4.0. And there are very important implications, which I shall talk about in a short while. And also the ASEAN countries like Thailand, Malaysia, needless to say, Singapore is a leader, Indonesia. These are countries with whom we have worked through the Japanese think tank, and they are involved in accelerating the transition to Industry 4.0 in a big way. So there are very important implications for us in Sri Lanka. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Then I would like to outline very briefly the work that we have accomplished in Sri Lanka in partnership with FCCISL. And then lastly, provide some suggestions on what we could do next to accelerate this transition. Now, the reason why we talk about Industry 4.0 is, as we all know very well, there have been 3 previous industrial revolutions. The first one with mechanization and steam power, second one, mass production, the assembly line, then Industry 3.0, thanks to computers and communication, electronics, automation. And now with Industry 4.0, which has actually built up on the knowledge gained during the earlier 3 revolutions, plus it has brought in a lot of new innovations, new technologies, which have now culminated in what we call Industry 4.0. Now, why do we call it a 4th industrial revolution? The reason is that it is not that the technologies that are there are revolutionary, but it is also important to understand that in an Industry 4.0 setting, the way we produce, the way materials, information, and finance flow all have to be re-engineered. We can't be using Industry 3 and Industry 2 approaches with respect to production in an Industry 4 setting. So there has to be we have to make very big changes, revolution again. And most importantly, companies in any country do not work in a vacuum. They work within an environment that is conditioned by the government. So we need a lot of national policy innovations as well, which will give confidence to the companies that the government is really serious and we can now confidently move forward. And in moving forward, the companies also have to come out with a lot of managerial innovations. So given all these complexities, the term 4th industrial revolution is very popularly used to reflect the totality. Now, what is interesting is, Madam, I'm sure you know this already, but the person who really was responsible for launching this revolution was the former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, who coined the term Industry 4.0 in Germany and popularized it. And the reason why Germany is considered one of the leaders is they saw that a lot of revolutionary technologies were emerging, which could be brought together to create this new industrial revolution. And these technologies, just to mention a few, would be the cloud, additive manufacturing or 3D printing, augmented reality, big data and analytics, robotics, simulation, Internet of Things, and so on. So these are just a few of those what we call foundational technological advances, which have really resulted in making the Industry 4.0 revolution a reality. Now, what is at the core of Industry 4.0. Basically, from a manufacturing perspective, and our focus today is on manufacturing, we talk about cyber physical production systems, which use these foundational technologies that we just talked about. So when we use these technologies, what happens in the manufacturing arena? Firstly, we design smart products. We have a smart factory which uses cyber physical production. A lot of the outputs are delivered through what we call digital services. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear very well. Yes.
Yeah, because suddenly I
Um, he has decided.
His, I think, connection issue. He will come back. I think.
Dr. Rama, you are.
No, you have to unmute Rama. Yes.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, because suddenly, I don't know. Okay, sorry about that interruption. I'll go back again and share my screen.
Okay.
So what we have here is our smart products, smart factories, and services also being delivered in a very clever way. The digital services through the Internet of Things, cloud computing, big data, enterprise resource planning systems, and so on. So that is the first one, the vertical networking of smart production systems within a company. Secondly, the advantage is that global value chains or supply chains now become a web where horizontal integration becomes possible with respect to suppliers, logistics, distribution, research and development, product design, and product development. And so these are the core of Industry 4.0. And as a result of all of these, we require new ways of working and innovative policy instruments to encourage companies to adopt this new way of working. Now, having said that, which I'm sure all of you know, but the reason I wanted to point out is to emphasize the need for some of the important changes that are needed both at the firm level and the national level. Now, what are the implications for manufacturing firms in emerging economies? Now, with Industry 4, we move into what we call new globalization. But many of the emerging economies are still living in what we call old globalization. So in old globalization, production was concentrated in big factories located in low labor cost locations, which is and Sri Lanka has adopted that model in a big way in our export processing zones and even our own companies within Sri Lanka. But now we are moving to what is called distributed production, where the Industry 4 technologies are allowing smaller local factories to meet local demand with speed to market. You can bring it out very quickly. And this has important implications for our companies, as I'll point out in the next slide. Secondly, in the old globalization, governments were encouraging cross-border trade through multilateral agreements, market liberalization, and the main focus was how do you reduce the cost of cross-border trade. But today, after the pandemic and after looking at all these uncertainties that are happening across the world due to political upheavals, governments are encouraging local supply, because what they are saying is that try to produce locally. Now, this has important implications for some of the richer countries which had previously outsourced their production. So now there is a trend to bring everything back to their own countries. And this has, again, a lot of important implications for emerging economies. And thirdly, in the past, cross-border collaboration was encouraged by governments, but it was expensive for companies. And although we use the internet and so on to communicate, trying to find out what customers in other parts of the world needed was quite expensive, and we had to rely very heavily on our principals in different countries to decide what we need to produce. But today, because of digitalization, the improved digital connectivity, the cross-border collaboration has become very cheap. And even a company in Sri Lanka can, in real time, understand what customers want in other parts of the world through business analytics and through receiving information in real time. So in an Industry 4 setting, we have to move towards distributed production, understand that governments throughout the world are encouraging local supply and how do we participate in that, and also understand that cross-border collaboration today is not as expensive as it was before. But many emerging economies, and I'm not saying only Sri Lanka, if you look at our big neighbor India, if you look at the ASEAN countries, many of them were still in old globalization, but they are now moving towards new globalization. Now, I would just like to take a small case study to show why this is very serious for countries like Sri Lanka. Now, here's an example of the footwear production at a company, very famous company called Salomon. And this is, I'm here giving here the quotation of Guillaume Mezenc, who is the vice president of this company. He said, and this is just about 2 years ago, he says that the way we have been producing in Asia up to now is no longer the unique solution in the long term. With large factories, thousands of workers, and so on, we have to build our own production in France. And new material developments, new production methods, new digital design technologies with ongoing digitalization and automation have created new possibilities. He's talking about Industry 4.0. And so you see here, this company is developing what they call the advanced shoe factory in France, where 4 Industry 4 production lines are being built. And everything starting from formerly the labor-intensive activities like cutting the shoe components, finishing, packaging, everything is being done in this factory. And they are going to have highly specialized production of shoes every year. And what is really concerning is that instead of 500 people, there will be only 50 delivering the same production volume. So if you take a low labor cost location, previously in a country where 500 people were required and they could not afford the wages, now they could do it with 50 people or even less, because there are some studies which have shown that the work of 500 people could be done by 25 and even 10, depending on how advanced the production facility is. And furthermore, they can very quickly change production from one model to another, and they can produce different styles at the same time. So this is really very concerning for developing countries, emerging economies, especially in the ASEAN region, countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand. They are very concerned about all this. And I think Sri Lanka also should be equally concerned. And through our interaction with companies in Sri Lanka, we know it is true. So what are the implications? Firstly, we are not talking about changing all our manufacturing facilities into Industry 4.0. Even in the most advanced countries, there will be Industry 2 and Industry 3 companies operating for quite some time. But for us to get started, there must be at least some firms that should launch initiatives to move to an Industry 4 setting. So we are not saying that overnight we should try to change everything to Industry 4. So we should have some companies taking the leadership in moving towards Industry 4.0. Now, the real reason is, and this is what our counterparts in the ASEAN countries, the Singaporeans, the Indonesians, the Malaysians, and the others, Vietnamese, Thais, they have been telling us during our interactions is that even the advanced countries are still struggling with Industry 4.0. It is not that they have mastered it. Through trial and error, they are improving what they are doing. But once they overcome these teething problems, it is only going to be a matter of time before they start moving back a lot of the production which they previously outsourced to take advantage of low labor costs. So that's an important implication. Now, however, there is an interesting development which is very encouraging for us. And that is Adidas in Germany, which got very enthusiastic because of Angela Merkel. They decided to move all their production back to Germany and go for Industry 4.0 factories. And they called them speed factories. But when they started doing that, they faced some teething problems and issues. And then everybody said, oh, maybe we are making a mistake. But they said, no, we are not making a mistake. We need to overcome the problem. But while we are working on that, there is something we can do. And what they did is they started working with counterparts in countries like China to set up Industry 4.0 factories. So the argument was, if we can have advanced technology in a country like China, which has skilled labor and which has very good production skills, we can make it even cheaper because you are now using less labor, but you are locating it in a country like China where the labor cost is low. So you're going to have even greater advantages if you can create that if you can do that. Some people have told that Adidas is sharing very sensitive technology with China, which will steal it and so on. But Adidas says we'll do this while we also keep doing our own work back in Germany. So they argue that combining advanced Industry 4 technology with skilled low-cost labor and productive manufacturing will give greater competitive advantage. So India is taking that very seriously. So is Indonesia, so is Thailand and Vietnam and all these other countries. And I think that is also something that we should seriously consider in Sri Lanka. Now, then the question is, if all this is so great about Industry 4.0, why is still there are so much lack of enthusiasm in moving to that? In fact, even this is true even in Germany. And Ulrich Grillo, the president of the Federation of German Industries, which is something like the FCCISL in Sri Lanka, very sarcastically pointed out that in Germany, the only success of Industry 4.0 is that it's on everyone's lips. People are talking about it, but not doing anything. So I think this has a very important implication. We have to actually start doing something about it. And some of the other countries have already started work. So at the Western Sydney University, Dr. Prem and Samanthi and I, what we thought is that one of the first things that any company would want to do, because we have been working with many companies, we have many of our MBA students who come from manufacturing firms, and so we have a dialogue ongoing with our own senior students in our university. And one of the first things that we have found out is that if a company wants to move to an Industry 4 setting, it wants to ask itself, how ready are we? Are we ready to move to that Industry 4 setting? How do I assess my readiness? Because once I assess my readiness, I know what I should do to bridge the gaps and develop the capabilities needed. So we thought we should start work on that. And that is what we have done here. So I'm now going to talk about the work accomplished in Sri Lanka in partnership with FCCISL. But before that, I'm not going to go into the readiness assessment framework in detail. But what we did is we did a study of the literature that has come out on Industry 4. We looked at the work done by big consulting companies like McKinsey, BCG, KPMG, Pricewaterhouse. We looked at the work done in the United Kingdom by universities which had moved into industrial extension work in the United States, in Korea. And after all that very exhaustive literature search and studying consulting reports, we found out that Industry 4 readiness has to be assessed with respect to 8 important determinants, which is the strategy and organization of the company, the condition of the plant and equipment in the company, the IT systems that they have, the kind of human skills they have, the kind of product that they are producing, and how are they managing their operations with respect to energy consumption, with respect to quality management, and with respect to supply chain management. So what we decided is that we should try to study the readiness of any company with respect to these 8 determinants. Now, these 8 determinants are very general. So under each of those determinants, we have several criteria, and I'm not going to go through all those. But what I would like to show is that, for example, if you take one of those determinants, which is strategy and organization, we have under that some assessment criteria. So what is the extent of Industry 4.0 emphasis in strategy formulation and implementation in that company? So that is one part. Then intra-firm collaboration. How are different departments within the company collaborating? Has the company allocated funds to move to Industry 4.0, to adopt Industry 4 technologies? Are they measuring the impact of Industry 4 implementation? What kind of leadership is there in the company to move to Industry 4? And what kind of emphasis is there on innovation within the company? So for these, we created some sort of a rating system. Level 0 means you have not done anything at all. And level 4 is you're probably one of the best in the world. So any company can assess itself with respect to these criteria to find out where they are. So here I have shaded in blue just to show.
Rama,
Yeah.
can you I had given those printouts to the secretary and the additional secretary.
Yes.
You can skip this one and go for what we can do as collaboratively. That area, I think, that will be the best.
Sure.
She's also
I'm not going to go, Kirti, I'm not going to go through everything in detail.
Yeah, sure.
Just this to show that how you can rate it. And this is one of the ratings that we found in one of the companies that we studied. So I'm not going to go through all this in detail. But in this company, when we studied that, we found that for all the determinants, this is how they rated themselves. And this is a diagram, a ray diagram that they developed in that company to show where they are with respect to each of the determinants. And this shows that the kind of gap that they have to bridge. So the readiness assessment framework basically does exactly that. So we thought that in Sri Lanka, one of the first things that we should do is to tell companies that such a readiness assessment framework is available and they can start using it. So this is where we launched our work in Sri Lanka in partnership with FCCISL. And so here are the members of the team who worked with us. And we also collaborated with the following government agencies in Sri Lanka, the Ministry of Industries and the Sri Lanka Standards Institution, in conducting our programs there. So very briefly, these are the programs that we have conducted in Sri Lanka so far. A webinar titled Industry 4 Readiness Assessment for Enhancing Profitability and Sustainability on the 5th of August. Then we had a follow-up webinar workshop on Industry 4 Readiness Assessment, with then again another webinar on the same topic, which we did in partnership with the Ministry of Industries and the Sri Lanka Standards Institution. The first two was mainly with FCCISL. And all these webinars attracted about 200 participants. And what we did is, at this webinar, we made an offer to provide guidance to companies which want to work on this readiness assessment. We said we are happy to have a Zoom meeting with them and guide the company on how to do that. And two companies took advantage of this offer, and we held meetings with them via Zoom to guide them and answer their queries. It was all free of charge. And we are very happy to learn that these two companies have used these findings to actually move forward on their own with respect to Industry 4 technology. And based on our own research program, what we have now done is, with Dr. Prem and Mrs. Samanthi, we have now gone one step further, and we have developed a follow-up methodology where, after the readiness assessment, we can now sit with the management of the company and help them to decide how to prioritize what they should do. So we have developed that tool as well, which I'm not going to talk about today, but it is there. So we have moved forward. So what we have also shown, what we are showing here is a generalized progression chart, which tells how you can start and how you can move forward. And we will be using this chart when we sit down with a company which has completed a readiness assessment to discuss what they should do after that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we need very good policy instruments to move forward and support from the government. And what is also important to remember is that large companies are likely to embrace this faster than smaller companies, which may be constrained by skills and funds. So governments could try to address these issues. So lastly, to conclude, I would like to talk about a possible way forward. Now, one of the suggestions that we would like to make is that we should set up a robust and action-oriented center of excellence that enjoys the confidence of both business and government to promote the Industry 4.0 movement in Sri Lanka. So it could be set up, for example, at FCCISL, and FCCISL has had a lot of experience in this context in the past. And we have two people in Mr. Sena Peris and Mr. Nihal Kure who are involved in setting up similar centers of excellence for cleaner production systems, and also they have worked with SMED. This center of excellence can network with government agencies, universities, engineering firms, research centers, professional associations, banks, international agencies, and other relevant institutions to create synergy for this movement and to get the necessary skills. Because one thing we should remember is that it is not only engineering. It's about money. It's about policies. It's about getting learning lessons from overseas experience as well. So that's why networking becomes very important with a variety of entities. And the COE, this is just a sample of possible activities that they can undertake, but this is by no means comprehensive, nor are these could be modified, but this is just to get a discussion started. This Center of Excellence could conduct seminars, workshops, training programs on Industry 4 transition planning and implementation. So this is basically awareness creation and convincing companies to move forward. Along with that, we could conduct seminars, workshops, and training programs in areas such as productivity improvements, maintenance, lean manufacturing, lean supply chains, cleaner production, waste management, because all of these are now possible more easily with Industry 4. And there is a synergy between these initiatives as well as Industry 4. It is not as if Industry 4 is in a silo by itself. It is interrelated to all of these. And I know, madam, that you're very interested in lean management and lean manufacturing, supply chains, and so on. And then also, this Center of Excellence could set up online services or databases to provide information on Industry 4 technologies, planning and implementation. And Dr. Prem, Ms. Samanthi and I, we have collected a lot of information which we can gladly share with this center to which they could put up. And then, of course, the center itself could independently look for more. Provide Industry 4 readiness self-assessment tools. We have developed an online tool, and the two companies that I talked about use this online tool. So this Center of Excellence could link it to the tool that we have at the Western Sydney University, and companies could use that to do the readiness assessment very quickly. Furthermore, the Center of Excellence should develop a register of local consultants who can provide Industry 4 technology adoption expertise. So if a small or medium-sized enterprise comes to the Center of Excellence and says, I want to move into these areas, I want to do this, can you guide me? Now, this is the reason why I suggested this here is because when I was with the United Nations, we provided these services to a lot of small and medium enterprises in a range of areas like renewable energy technology, nanotechnology, and so on. We developed a roster of experts that who could be consulted by companies wishing to move into those areas. And very importantly, provide network meetings in Colombo or in the districts, wherever, to bring together people who want to transition to Industry 4.0. In Australia, we do this in a very big way, and various government agencies do this. And Singapore does this also very well, where the Center of Excellence hosts like breakfast meetings, where people who have successfully implemented various projects come there to give a talk, and other companies that are interested in moving into those areas come there to listen. A nominal fee is charged, but it promotes networking, exchange of experience, identification of problems which can then be used. So these are some of the preliminary ideas that we thought of. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentation, and thank you for your patience listening to me.
Thank you, Rama. So this is the basic thing that, we also want to present to Madam. Madam, you can comment anything?
Yeah, Dr. Rama, thank you very much. It's a nice presentation. But you think that my background, when already I developed 4 Center of Excellence in different areas, and finally at the last moment, before I leave the Asian Productivity Organization, National Productivity Council of India has developed as the Center of Excellence in Industry 4.0. Right? So the APO Center of Excellence in Industry 4.0, the National Productivity Council of India is working for benchmarking by the other countries, other Asian member countries. All the countries you talk about those practices, I work with those countries. But in Sri Lanka, as the Secretary Minister of Industries, I know the subject, I have a good understanding. I have knowledge and experiences about many subject areas you talk about that, and also the National Productivity Secretary during my stay there. I work with Mr. Senapiris and so many resource speakers here, and also my friend Mr. Kirti. I really want to know that as the Secretary Minister of Industries, I really want to know that what are the things that you are going to propose us to implement in Sri Lanka. I agree with you that we want to develop FCCISL or one other organization as a center of excellence in promoting the Industry 4.0. But this is the very crucial time that Ministry of Industries, we are facing in protecting our manufacturing industries by providing the raw material. These days, we are doing the work to provide these raw materials to the manufacturing industries in Sri Lanka with this economic crisis. Industry 4.0 is very important. If those people are not facing those difficulties, I'm sure we can continue without any difficulties. But at the same time, when we consider those issues in the government of Sri Lanka with the economic crisis, we want to protect our industries. And also, Ministry of Industries, we are very keen to develop these concepts to support our industries. I feel that during my stay there in the APO, I have experiences in many countries. When we are implementing that center of GP, the Taiwan is working as the center of GP, the Singapore is working as the center of excellence in business excellence. And also Philippines is working as the center of excellence in public sector productivity promotion. India is the best country who are working as a center of excellence in industry 4.0. Like that, I feel we want to select some organizations to FCCISL or the collaboration. We can develop collaborations between FCCISL and our industry ministry, as well as we can invite cleaner productions and also national productivity secretary. So many organizations are working for enhancing the SME sector, especially the SME and also the industry. And Ministry of Industry, we are really focusing more on enhancing the manufacturing industries. That these concepts are very important. The knowledge that several people are having that knowledge in training. But unfortunately, I'm always asking them why we are not implementing. We are talking about the things several times. So many organizations are talking about these things, but at the ground level, we don't have many best practices. But we have some best practices regarding the innovation and Kaizen and implementing money productivity tools and techniques. Dr. Rama, I'm asking that the Ministry of Industries, we are very interesting and we are very keen to support the industries to establish this industry 4th revolution or something that we can go for. And also that we are talking about the smart industries and also we are talking about the green industries. All the things are there. That the cleaner production and also as you clearly mentioned that my interesting area is lean manufacturing. That we want to introduce that lean manufacturing to the industries in Sri Lanka. So we are interesting. We have the knowledge. We have the experiences. What is the ultimate target and what is the things that and how we are implementing these things with them. That kind of discussions we need to continue with the relevant authorities. And today actually is a very busy day. Another meeting I have 11:30. So we have to go for the president of it 12 o'clock. So there are so many meetings. I really invite our FCCISL and with Mr. Senapiris and Dr. Nihal and all the other officials here, including my friend Mr. Kirti. Shall we work together? And we will develop FCCISL or other organization as a center of excellence, and we work for that. First of all, before establishing that center, shall we conduct this survey with some selected 100 or 50 organizations, 50 industries? Better we selected 50 industries. I think that many industries are working with the FCCISL and also the cleaner production centers. So we will select some 50 or 100 or number of industries and we'll do this test. We'll do that and we will evaluate based on the evaluation and based on the testing and we evaluate the companies, we can cluster the organization. Based on those clusters, we can treat the organization and support the organization industries to develop these concepts within their organization. Is that okay?
I think
That's okay.
Also, otherwise, I don't know. Do you?
What happens is now, even, if you go back one step, we had the SMED, which was small and medium enterprise development unit at FCCISL. So over the period, due to COVID, due to various other things, that unit is now no longer, because that was the only place provided the services for a smaller company if they have an issue. Because the larger companies, there is no issue for them because they can pay the money and get the consultants and get it done. But the smaller companies, the issues today, because they have very little money.
Yeah.
Now, today's situation is after the economic crisis and the COVID, they are in the lowest level. They never been to that low level.
Yeah.
So that is the time that I think both our organization we can get together. This is the idea of coming here also. Like, I mean, if we can jointly, as you suggested, if we go for some project and set up something, then we also can write to various funding organization, which right now, but they are also very keen that they feel very sorry about the Sri Lanka. And they know that we have a lot of talents. Even, people like Professor Rama, we came for this one thinking that we are the people who came up to this level through the free education of Sri Lanka. So we should give something back to the country. On that sense, we started and did all this. But now you can't do free meal business every day. It's like, I mean, you have to have a kind of a joint collaboration with the right place. I believe the right place is no any other place than the Ministry of Industry. We got the best secretary today because you understand this, because we can talk, because sometimes we have been talking as the chambers, but only thing is, somebody listen and, forget everything. So, but, they hear something, you have the background to this. And I myself have been attended more than 5 or 6 APO seminars. So again, we do not have even a system to get the trainees from those organizations and get something back to the our industries. So I think if we set up this one, we'll have another meeting. We also will come up with some ideas. Probably you all also can give some ideas. Then after that, we'll go for a joint collaboration, which we can, talk to various funding organizations and get some support and move forward from there.
Mr. Gita, I think that with our policy division, our director is there, and additional secretary policy, national policy, and Chaminda is the additional secretary who is in charge of the sector, and our Shamali, she's the deputy director, media and IT. And this is there. He's the person who is in charge of the SME development with Ministry of Industries. So I feel that better we develop that collaborations.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, that after we develop the collaboration and the mechanism, what we are going to implement. And also, as I mentioned, clearly mentioned that first of all, better we do the survey.
Yeah.
This is a very excellent framework.
Yeah.
I know that I also good.
Yeah.
Shall we go through this framework and
Yeah.
do the survey
Yeah.
with the selected
I think so,
companies?
yes.
And based on the survey results,
Yeah.
we can develop that which kind of technical know-how we want to transfer and what kind of training that we want to conduct and which kind of support that we want to provide those manufacturing organizations. We can get an idea. So first of all, I think you are very busy. Your division is very busy. Therefore, I'm asking Mahesh and our Risri and Chamari and Inoka, you can work together and develop the mechanism with FCCI itself. And if we are implementing those things, I'm sure that we can get the support of APO. And also, Dr. Rama clearly mentioned that Asian Productivity Organization, they are willing to support that India and Singapore, even Taiwan, many countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, those countries are really keen to support the Asian Productivity Organization member countries. Sri Lanka is a good member of the Asian Productivity Organization. Through the National Productivity Secretariat, I feel that we can get the technical support from the APO. No worries about that. Therefore, Dr. Rama is there, our Sri Lankan, Dr. Samanthi and Dr. Prem is there.
Prem,
Yes.
I guess.
I feel that with your support, we can develop that system here. No worries. We work immediately without talking. I hate to talk.
Yeah.
There are so many talks. I'm listening. There are so many people they are talking. NATO always I mention the Sri Lanka is a NATO country. No action talk only. But I want to see the results. I like to see the actions without talking. Therefore, please do that and start. Our blessings are here. Already we asked our officials to join with you. Please develop that framework and start the work.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
They go for that survey. It's about that industry, for the readiness of that industrial solution.
Yeah.
That we have to decide that which level of industries that we are going to be surveying. Because I think I think madam that if we can go for the large industries and the medium level, not going for the small and the
Agree.
that we know they are not ready.
Yeah.
And then that's the survey and all that. It's better that we go for the large industries and that we select that 50 large industries and the 50 medium scale industries.
Yeah.
From the cluster area development. Means of industry that we can support to
Find the
our
organizations.
sector advisory committees, then through that sector advisory, we have advisory committees, and then through that we can select all the companies representing all these sectors. That would be much better.
Yeah,
Yes.
Actually, we did a similar kind of a
Exercise for the
exercise,
previous one also.
but we can, but of course,
Develop the
they didn't
criteria.
really participate on the assessment because it's better that they themselves should understand where they stand. No?
Then we can support and from the cluster area side that we can support the nation.
I think especially we can identify the weak areas of the industry.
Yeah.
The assessment will give that. So then
We will.
I think dedicated programs we can develop when we identify the weak areas.
Yes.
So I have
Yes.
told that based on the survey findings,
Yes.
we can develop the
We can
areas.
develop.
Because this assessment tool will give a lot of.
Yeah, this assessment is excellent. I know that. That's why I have the experience
I think
following those.
one requirement is, I think we need the blessing of the ministry to do the assessment. Then only, because they will otherwise not take it seriously.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that which Aminda mentioned that there are 20 sector advisory councils. They are working with us in large companies and the medium
Right.
scale companies are working with those sectors.
Yeah.
Very easily we can.
I think so, yes.
Chambers.
Yeah, all the chambers are working.
Working, yes.
Now
That
they
we
are
started
very
with
closely working with us.
We started working with the chambers too. Earlier that we started that we work with the advisory committees, only with the advisory committees, but that very recently that.
How Dr. Rama has developed this tool is that it's very confidential and it's very
Yeah.
friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to make sure that we tell them that we don't disclose this information to any others.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the ministry of that they need some, I think from the ministry of industry, all the communication, those kind of things can be done through the ministry.
Through the ministry, yes.
But that the survey and all that we need some experts to conduct the survey.
Yes.
Even then, officers also can
Yeah, this.
sometimes participate, then that would be a learning process for them.
Actually, we can train them also on a
Yes.
web.
Yeah, that's
That's
I
possible.
wanted to mention,
Yeah.
better we selected our
Okay.
institutional senior officials, better conduct a training program on industrial occupancy. Otherwise, some officials, they don't have the knowledge regarding
Yes.
this.
The very
Yeah.
first one we had it like that.
Yeah, even if you can get the cluster presidents and maybe key people, for them also we can do this.
Like the very first one we had.
Then, who will take the leadership from the ministry? You know, you already think that you can take the leadership, have the experience in working with them. But immediately you want to set up that process and start without talking.
Yeah, walk the talk.
Yes, agree, fully agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. We like I also don't want to be an echo person. So we should be the walk the talk. And we both from the same university. I mean, together, if we cannot do something for the benefit of the country, I think we also do. I mean, something wrong for the country. So I'm there 100%. Something. Yeah. Rama, do you want to add something? Prem, you want to add something? Yeah, his hands.
Can I just want to point out that I think it's a great idea, this survey, but one of the concerns that a lot of companies have is that they may not, they may feel that this information is confidential and they don't want to share it with others, because if you're going to do the survey with respect to those 8 determinants and all the various sub-criteria, I don't know whether companies will feel uncomfortable to sort of send this information and then try to, for us to put it together. So that is something that we need to think about. We can assure them that it will all be confidential, but my experience with companies, not just in Sri Lanka or the ASEAN region, but even in Australia, they don't want to share this. They'll simply say, no, we'll do it ourselves. We know what to do. We don't want to make it public. We don't want to put it elsewhere. So these are problems that you may face. But if you can overcome that, I think it will be great.
Yes, Dr. Rama, I clearly, definitely agree with you. But as we mentioned that sector, with the sector advisory councils, we can set up the process and we can establish some MOU or that what kind of agreement we can sign the mutual agreement that we are protecting their data security and we are not publishing those information. Just we are conducting this survey for getting idea regarding this industrial 4th revolution or something that we can develop that trust between the Ministry of Industries and sector advisory councils. We will conduct another sessions with those 20 sector advisory councils and we will make awareness regarding the surveys. Dr. Rama, I really totally agree with you.
That's very good.
Even that Japan, none of the Japanese organizations, they never publish their information.
Yes, yes.
That is the culture it is feeling.
Yes.
We can do this survey.
I think Prem wants to say.
Yeah, can I make a comment and a question now? Thank you, of course, Mrs. Madam Tilaka Jasundar, and also Kirti for organizing this, and Nana, of course, presenting the background that we have been going through for the last 1 year and 1.5 years or so. My got one question and a comment, but before we start the online assessment, we are going to go for a survey. Are we targeting, because there are two sides, one particular industry sector and the sizes of the industry organizations are small, medium, and large, but I'm not sure how many of large companies which are local compared to global companies in Sri Lanka. Because if you do look at large companies or large organizations in any country for that matter, usually are very much the global companies. We found in our experience with the companies that we work in Bangkok, where it's very hard to get the large companies if they are part of a global organization. Then the question comes whether they have got the power and the authority to make decisions when going forward with the industry force. So that's one thing. Maybe you may know all the background, but I'm not aware of the industries sectors plus the sizes of the manufacturing organizations in Sri Lanka that are very much in need for this kind of work. So if the Ministry of Industries can identify those two areas before we even come to any other action in terms of survey and the online assessment, plus even the prioritization of their needs, probably we might start at that point, giving a very specific webinar for a selected sector or for a selected size of
they are not, they are getting distant. So what
we will do that and we'll update you, Prem, the developments from this end. That Madam also has to attend another meeting. The President has called a meeting, it seems. So therefore, we'll try to conclude and thank you for joining for this meeting. And you're always being a serious contributor for this course all the time from the day that we started this. And thank you, Madam, given us this opportunity. We will ensure we will walk the talk from our end. we expect that to happen from your end too. And, I'm sure that, people like Inoka, very helpful and, always, she sometimes press us to do things. So that's the kind of people we need if you want to move this country.
Yes.
So we really appreciate that. I think, with this, your leadership, I'm sure that we can do something. We will ensure everything. My vice president is here. He is also an industry man, but the only thing is today, no time to talk much, but we will have another
will
meeting
continue.
and have a discussion.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rama, Dr. Samanthi, Dr. Prem. And
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much. We will work together. Continue our good
Yes.
work.
Looking forward to it very much.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, madam. Look forward to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
madam.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.